How's everybody doing? Everybody awake? They're not awake. This is going to be great. If you've never heard me, we're going to have some interaction. So if you don't talk to me, I'm going to come out there and talk to you. So one more time, we'll restart. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Awesome. My name is George Rodgers. I'm the Chief Culture Officer at Lighthouse Research and Advisory, and we're excited to have you here this morning. I'm excited about this conversation with these two young gentlemen, wise gentlemen that are here with us today. But before we start off, because the way y'all introduce yourselves to me, we're going to have to do a little bit something different. I have a 9-year-old kid that I adopted when he was 2, and he thinks I travel for a living to buy shoes, which I don't travel just to buy shoes. I just so happen to see shoes that want to come home with me. And so in order for him to believe that I'm actually working, I need video footage. So if I can get y'all's participations with me, I just got 2 quick things I need you to do. If you have your phone with you, I need you to bring your phone out for me and turn the flashlight on. You're going to face it my way. It's not because it's dark in here and I want you to see me. I just want you to be able to, flash the light. And so in a second, I'm going to have my phone and I'm going to say, hey, everybody, I'm live here in Las Vegas and Mendeley for HR Tech Conference. And I'm here with a few of my great friends, and I'm going to turn around, and y'all are going to be so wonderful. We're going to do this on the first try. You're going to stand up and scream as loud as you can to my son, Dexter. Can y'all do that with me? All right, here we go. This is perfect. I appreciate y'all's participation. If you want to go ahead and just stand up. That way I know you're not going to, psych me out here. I got some participation. That'd be great. Here we go. Hey, Dexter, listen, I got the logo behind me. I'm here at HR Tech Conference on stage with my great friends from UPS. And not only that, I'm here with some of my favorite people in Las Vegas that are excited about seeing you. Come on, don't stop there. All right, thank you so much. Awesome. I appreciate y'all tolerating me for that quick 5 seconds there. Today, we're going to be talking a lot about strategies that UPS is using to streamline their high volume hiring and onboarding. But before we get into this conversation, I'd like these 2 gentlemen to introduce themselves and what they would do with UPS.
Sure. My name is Sanz. I'm the new head of talent acquisition globally. Been around UPS for almost 29 years and counting, so I'm super excited to be here with you today.
Matt Lavery, I'm the Global Director of Sourcing, Recruiting, and Onboarding for UPS. I'm with UPS going on 28 years in February.
Awesome. So today we're going to do cover a lot of topics. There's a lot of exciting things you're going to hear. Some of these things you may say, there's no way this is possible, but all things are possible, especially when you have Fountain there. But we're going to talk a little bit about the proactive things that they're doing with their strategies and some of their experiences with the candidate experience as well in those conversations. I don't want to waste too much time, so I want to just jump right into this and talk a little bit about how UPS was really able to embrace the technology side of things in the hiring. So if you would, and I'll start with you, Mr. Matt, if you would, could you take us back a little bit to the beginning, what that process looked like?
Sure.
Change is difficult for a lot of people, adapting to things, but talk to us a little bit about the change early on with UPS.
Yeah, I'm going to take you all the way back to the beginning.
Let's go.
We're going to go back to 2002. And really what we decided to do then, we took a process that was 22 different pieces of paperwork that had to get sent to an employee service center to get keyed into PeopleSoft and imaged into Xerox. And then we took that and we made it an online process with a company called Information Interactive Systems. We built it with them. We designed it, they built it. Because at the time, in 2002, and even today, there's not a lot of applicant tracking systems that really know how to do high volume hourly hiring. They're all rec-based. They talk about evergreen recs, which in my mind are garbage for high volume hourly. And so we actually had to build it ourselves. We used that product until just recently, a year and a half ago, when we brought in Fountain. Fountain was the first product that I saw that can be customizable and do better than what we built. The reason we were looking to get off of the product that we built, they did a great job for a long time, but it wasn't customizable, it wasn't easy to make changes. And the older the product got, the longer it took to make changes. So when we looked at Fountain, I started researching them, talked to a gentleman named Evan there, and they go, oh yeah, our thing is so customizable, this and that. I'm like, okay. So I gave him our process flow for what we used to onboard package handlers and high volume situations. I'll leave it there. Hopefully it didn't do anything. And then what I did is I gave him our process flow, and I said, well, we can get this back to you pretty quick. I go, okay. So I gave him the process flow. I was expecting to get a call back from him in a couple weeks, maybe a month, and I'd get some sort of a prototype that really wasn't workable. In 3 days, he came back to me with a prototype that I actually log into the system and play with as a candidate, as an HR rep. It was pretty close to what we were already doing. There was nuances that weren't there. It wasn't exact, but it was certainly something that only took 3 days to build. Wow. So it really impressed me. And I started to research more and more with the company, and I finally found a company that I felt that could handle our volume. To give you an idea on our volume, during peak season, we're going to hire 125,000 people inside a 6 weeks period. On a yearly basis, we're going to be north of 300,000 hires most years. So we're not talking a small number of folks. And it's our high volume jobs. So it's people at advanced packages in the building. If you get packages delivered to your home, and you see a driver, then someone in the jump seat, that's a driver helper. That's the common job that we hire at peak season. That job doesn't exist any other time than peak season. So we go from 0 employees to 40,000 employees every year in that job group during peak season. There's another job group that you probably see people delivering packages out of their own cars now to your homes during peak season. We go from 0 before peak season to about 40,000 of those folks at peak season too. So, and Fountain has really been instrumental in making that happen, not only because of the way they can fluctuate, they go up or down for a low volume and high volume, but there are locations that we're going to hire 5 of those type, and other locations we're going to hire a couple hundred. So think of the most rural areas of the country, even the most metro areas of the country, and we're able to fluctuate and make sure that we meet both needs. But yeah, hopefully that's enough of the story, the baseline for us to move forward.
Yeah. In there's challenges, right? What were some of those initial challenges? We can go all the way back. We can go in the beginning. I want to lead all the way to challenges through pandemic, post-pandemic as well in those conversations.
Yeah, so I can talk to you. Obviously, the pandemic was a game changer for us as well as it was for the rest of the country, right? So things didn't really stop at UPS during the pandemic. In the contrary, actually, it turned into the 6-week peak season that we talked about. It turned into a 12-month peak season because nothing really stopped, right? UPS was the main delivery driver of all the vaccines around the country. I mean, it felt like we never really slowed down hiring. Slowed down delivering packages. All of us shift our world from, going to a brick and mortar store to do any shopping. If you are like the ladies in my house, including me, decided to do a tremendous amount of shopping online, which increased the volume, and it was a total craziness for 2 years. So as you can imagine, that creates a complete set of difficulties from a hiring perspective. You got to take a look at the health and safety of our drivers, of our employees, the people that you hire. You got to streamline the process in a way to go from being able to come to our facilities to do interviews to everything 100% remote. Not only for all the employees that work within UPS, which are roughly 500,000 people large, to everybody that we bring in. So the numbers are astronomical, and the ability and the agility to shift with this model. And UPS is not one of those companies that over time felt that a lot of the remote work was part of our DNA. Is really face-to-face type of meetings, face-to-face hiring, and have to shift. That was a tremendous shift in how we do business. So I think that was a critical piece on how we adjusted through technology, the agility to be able to do everything pretty much 100% remote and maintain those hundreds of thousands of hiring because people continue to turn over. That's the reality, right? During those times, you didn't really know who was going to show up because they're afraid of, I don't want to really be with those helpers that Matt is talking about. They don't want to be with our drivers because the driver had to wear a mask, they had to wear a mask. There was a lot of uncertainty, and so that was a very challenging time. But we were able, through technology and agility, we were able to make some adjustments to keep those packages delivered every day.
To give you a better spin on that, we rolled out Fountain in June 30th of 2023, and our peak season starts September, October. There was a lot of worry on our side of the HR department that we were rolling out a new process that we hadn't changed in 20 years, essentially, and we're going to a new product. Well, we didn't get it right when we first rolled out in June. We made over 1,000 changes to the process between that and the end of peak season. But the product was nimble enough and quick enough to make changes on the same day. So if we recognize a problem in a location, a building, we can make those changes. The other part that sets Fountain apart from other products is you can independently change workflows on one sort or one job type within a building from another. They don't have to be uniform all the way across. You can make them uniform, they don't have to be. So if you have a nuance of a difference, meaning one building might be inside a fence line at an airport, so you have to put fingerprint checks in and those kind of things, you can do that in that product. You might have a difference on a sort where you have to, in our case, a different sort might need a different kind of qualification because maybe the different ways they move packages. You can put those nuances of difference in, or you can leave it all uniform. It's up to you. But you can make those changes on the micro level or the macro level, and all on the fly. You don't need to schedule releases weeks or months in advance. We did hot releases daily during peak season last year to make sure that we made our numbers. So that's another piece that sets them apart than other products that I could see. Because usually when you design a workflow and you're going to overlay it on top of Workday or what have you, it takes a lot to change that. You can't deviate from it real easily. In this product, you can.
Yeah. One of the things that I found interesting, and Jesus, I'm gonna come back to you, because I think this is something that speaks to the quick hiring process. In our research, we found out that 2 of the top 3 reasons employees are ghosting employers was due to the speed and the process of hiring. The value of time for employees, they don't want to waste a lot of time. In fact, I believe it's 84% of the candidates say that anything more than 2 interviews is too much. And so, with this process, I've talked to you last night, and there's efficiency, there's quickness. Talk a little bit about the quick hiring process.
Sure.
and how that impacted your company.
For sure. So obviously the quick hire process, everything that you do in a space where you have to hire this amount of employees, you gotta figure out a way to streamline and to get better. So we created this quick hire process that through technology and through companies like in this particular case Fountain, we were able to reduce the amount of time that it takes to process a candidate. I mean, we were able to reduce the time, 50%, right? From 20 days to 12 days. That is a big deal.
We'd actually get a little shorter than that, but our hiring sorts only hire once a week. So if you miss that Monday hiring date, you have to go to the following week. If we actually hired every day, we could be in single digits. Yep. So from time frame. And during some of our peak season jobs, we are in single digits. That you interview on a Monday, you start the next day in some cases. Yeah. So we'll talk about that. I'm sorry to.
No, you're good. The reality is, for us, it's almost like you're running two businesses within the year. You got the steady state that you go through 10 months of the year, and then a 6-week period, it turns into a crazy mess because we got our numbers inflate to tremendous amount. And if you don't partner with someone that allows you that scalability, have the flexibility, it is impossible. It's really impossible to achieve. I mean, in today's market, if you don't have partners, and that was one of our biggest decision-making changes for us to go with the risk. As Matt said, it wasn't perfect from the beginning of go with Fountain. Is to we saw a tool that has that flexibility that's going to give us the opportunity to do what we need to get, and we'll continue to tweak. So the beauty of the exercise is there's no one and done. We made over 1,000 changes on the first year, and their continuous refinements are
That's what we're always looking for, product improvements. We're always looking to make it better. And we're not, usually when you install a product, for lack of a better word, you're stuck with whatever you roll out for a period of time. We didn't want to be stuck. And that's what helped. The other piece, when you want to talk about time frame on this, just to give you a scope, about 85% of our hires for peak season are done and dusted in 22 minutes from when they start the apply process. They get a job offer within 7 minutes of starting the apply process. They get done with their I-9, W-4, all your onboarding documents inside 22 minutes. The only thing they're waiting on is their criminal background check to come back clear. So from the time the candidate hits the apply button to the time they're done, the median time right now for our candidates is 22 minutes to go through the whole process from start to finish. And that's all the legalese documents that you can imagine that a company our size has, the CIC, all the different things that you would do throughout your employment process, we're getting done in 22 minutes.
So that's changing the candidate experience to a whole new level and the impact and the value that you have there. That's important when we talk about the time and efficiency, the candidate experience.
Making a job offer in 7 minutes, you're meeting their expectations.
Yes, I would say so.
The candidates want to get, they want transparency, they want speed.
Yeah.
And we're trying to give them both of them as much best we can.
Yeah. You talked about the enhancement of recruiting and touched on that. So look, I want to transition to that on that efficiency standpoint. And so when you talk about that enhancing recruiting, what significant improvements, you talked about thousands of changes, being able to adapt and having that. What improvements did you at UPS observe in this recruiting process since integrating with the technologies?
Sure. So obviously, we talked about, and we'll talk about a lot through this presentation, time to hire, because for us is super critical. Candidate experience. I mean, without Fountain's agility, the reality is the customer experience will not work, right? I mean, Matt talked about the 7 minutes. I mean, there's way too much competition in the market, and it's not everything about pay rate, although there's a lot about pay rate. But the reality is, if you have a good experience, if you get on board, that really puts you in the lead, and then the speed to market, makes a huge difference. One of the things that I found, as being at UPS for 29 years, when we started, at the beginning of the internet, and how things have changed in 29 years. Obviously, now everything has to be mobile friendly, it has to be fast, it has to be aggressive, you have to be flexible, because all candidates, they have different needs and different modes on how they communicate. So to me, those are the three biggest items that change the dynamics of technology.
The other piece that I'd add to that is we've gone back and we've looked at what we've done, and we want to keep the human element into the process. Right. This is a life-changing event for somebody, even though it might be a number on a page that you have to meet a hiring plan. To that individual, that number, it's a big deal to get a job. It's a big deal to start a new job in a new place. Yeah. And we can't lose sight of that. So what we've been able to do is take a lot of the administrative burden from our onboarding team, our recruiting teams, to focus more on relationship building with candidates, to onboard them the right way, to talk to them the right way, to get them integrated into our company so that there can be more human time with them in that way, instead of having to deal, is this I-9 filled out correctly? Is they fill out sign out the on-the-scene employment form? Do they get their emergency contacts right? And make their focal point helping that candidate transition into an employment situation with us. Because it's a transition for them. And acknowledging that and be empathetic with it, I think it goes a long way for the candidate experience in the long term and the employee experience.
Yeah, and I think that the being, not all our new candidates are created equal. Some of them need different type of love, right? Some of them need hand-holding and white glove service to kind of walk them through because they're concerned. Matt will talk later about kind of the experiences on kind of how our candidates, when they come to our operations, will do the experience then, which is very different than when him and I started 29 years ago, right? It seems like there was a lot more bodies in the operation, that you get a tour of the operation, is your handheld the whole exercise, you get to see, you come to interview at the same time that you're going to be working. Nowadays, everything is automated, and it could be overwhelming, although a lot of these kids are ready. But we hire, a much variety of population. So they're not all teenagers under 20. So we hire a lot of folks that are elder in their path, that they come to UPS for one reason or another. So you got to be cognizant of your clientele and provide different services. And I think that that human factor is super.
And we had to really redesign it, because our prior process, a candidate came in for 3 different steps. You came in for your interview, you came in for a tour at our processing date, then you started your first date. Mm-hmm. We're coming in right now to their first date. We skipped the other 2 steps. So we trimmed away about 5 hours, including travel time, away from the candidate experience to get onboarded for their first day of work when we went to this process. But at the same time, they still got to show up at 3 a.m. their first day of work, to a place they haven't been before, in a parking lot, it seems strange to them. So we had to invest time and effort and strategy to get someone ready for that. Because in some cases, you pull up, you look around, nope, I'm not getting out of the car, and they pull away. And they have to you have to get them ready for that, their mindset ready, and say, this is the guardhouse, this is gonna be there to meet you and greet you with a clipboard, those kind of things, so that they're assured they're not walking into a bad situation. If prior, they'd been there during the day, maybe for an interview or during tour during the day. Now they're coming, because the people that deliver your packages, there's a lot of work that happens overnight to get those trucks loaded to go on the street. So a lot of our shifts, the majority of the people that work inside of our buildings are working from 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. If you go to a UPS building during the day, it's pretty much empty for the vast majority of our buildings, over the maybe 50 buildings across the country that have a day sort. So when the trucks are on the street, there's not a lot going on in our buildings. It's getting all those trucks ready, those 100,000 trucks to hit the street and deliver, 18 million packages a day is where all that work happens.
I don't know if anybody else is out there wrestling with the thought of, I'm thinking 3 a.m. Most of us got in last night at 3 a.m. This morning. But I want to talk, because I'm thinking like 3 a.m. this morning, I was eating some ribs and cabbage or something like that, and going to bed, waking up, pun. But in my mind, I'm thinking you're hiring 125,000 people in the next 6 weeks. How many people are questioning quality? Anybody else is wondering what can we talk about the impact of quality? Because I would think sometimes in the mindset of humans, we think quantity sometimes of that large mass, we're gonna have some people that are not very high quality hires.
Well, I fight on this a lot, because our video, we have a day in the life of video that we're pretty direct with. It's not some people tell me it's too drastic or too detailed. You have people in the video talking about, I earned this sweat. It's a tough job. You're gonna earn your money here. They talk about that. The other piece of that is you have to get somebody, the quality of the candidate is directly proportionate to how you treat them when they come in the door. If you don't treat them well, they're gonna leave quick. If you treat them well, even if you treat them well, that doesn't mean they're gonna stay, but it's more likely they will stay.
Yeah.
So we haven't really seen a spike, if you will, in turnover one way or the other since this product has been enhanced. We saw in the beginning some people leaving earlier, so I think we tapped into a new market of candidate that wasn't considering us before.
Yeah.
Because some people, if your process is multi-step or longer, they tune you out and they go somewhere else that you never had a chance with them. We're bringing those candidates in. Now maybe some of those candidates flipped and terminated themselves early, but the ones that stayed are staying a lot longer, those high quality candidates.
Yeah.
So you have to measure that. The other measurement that we look at is we survey all of our candidates. We're above 95% on every question on how they think our product works for them. So how much information they get back, the feedback they get back, the speed of it, and the process. The candidates like it. The candidates they don't have a lot of questions where they sit, where they stand. Because for the most part, if they don't advance, it's self-selected. They self-selected themselves out of the process. They didn't keep going. They don't have to guess what the next step is. Across the top of the bar tells them how fast and what they have to go do. And if they want to stop, it's on them. It's not us deselecting them for the most part.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the tools within Fountain, and we were talking to Jesus about the driven tools that are implemented when the Fountain is helping you with that quality hire, with their processes as part of that as well. Talk a little bit on the reduction. You're going from manual task, Jesus, a little bit. Speak on that reduction just a little bit.
Define the question.
Just how you were able to, the reduction of the manual task and the efficiency process that changed.
Sure. So obviously when you go to fully manual, we'll go back to, you got to align with technologies that are truly going to help you to improve. They're going to improve not only your speed to market, you got to improve on anything related to compliance. Obviously our I-9 compliance is very critical for us as well. And I think that eliminating all the different touch points that Matt talked about is key for us to to be able to be successful and move forward. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, the market today is completely different than it was in the past. They're much more technologically savvy. They don't really want to be handling paper. The way that they're getting treated makes a big difference in our operations. And I think that's, anything that is manually driven, our goal is to take it out of our process. Yeah. And
Z's definitely have a different mindset about this. And the alphas coming up behind them are going to be, I don't know what the right word is, finicky. If your process doesn't suit their needs and it's not easy for them, they're just not going to do it. Yeah. I mean, that's the feedback that we get.
Yeah. What's Fountain's role, Matt? You share a little bit on Fountain's role in driving that speed and removing those manual tasks. You mentioned the automated workflows as well. Can you speak a little bit more and elaborate on the automated workflows?
Yeah, they're scalable, meaning you can set up automated messages at different stages that automatically happen to nudge people along. So if they haven't moved forward, you can set it up in any kind of a cadence that you want. They also have products in their I-9 tool that actually someone can complete their whole I-9 process without ever actually coming into a building. It's all virtual. So they can get a friend and a neighbor to complete it from start to finish. So and without ever coming to a building or us manually doing it and going to E-Verify and getting verified in E-Verify at the same time. So it's those kind of things that just take away the human time that we can allocate more to relationship building with new hires. That's what we're trying to do, is take away all the repetitive work that's paperwork driven, that's compliance driven, automate as much as we can of that, and leave the time for recruiters to talk to people, to onboard them the right way, and get them ready for the job to be an employee for long term. So it's reorganizing how you did a work, because prior, a good chunk of their time, okay, I got to make sure this I-9's done, I got to make sure this is done, I got to make sure this is done. You're taking your recruiting time and your time with the candidate more into a paperwork session versus talking to them, understanding their needs. Now it's, what bus line did you get here on? Or do you know about this situation? Do you know about that we're a promotion from within company? That you can become a package car driver in 6 months at this location and get on your way to earning a job that's $150,000 a year and full compensation after 4 years. You actually get a pension with that job. You get a pension with a package handling job if you didn't know, with 5 years vested. So there's a lot of things that we're trying to, when we onboard people, that we're telling them, we would give in literature before, now we're verbally telling them and showing them, and it's showing an impact on our retention.
Awesome. One of the things, when it comes to the automated, 41% of employees are more likely to say that they see increased efficiencies. We've thrown that word efficiency out a lot today when talent acquisition is due to some of the automation process. So that's great to see there. I want to spend maybe the next 10 minutes, if we can. I'll do some Q&A as well, so if you have some questions, we'll do that as well. But maybe for the next 10 minutes, talk a little bit about some of the strategic techniques. For me, I love going to conferences. I get inspired and motivated, find all these new great things, but it's like, how do we take this back and apply this to what we're doing? So talk a little bit about the techniques from a scalability standpoint. How does UPS ensure not just on a scalable, but also flexibility, right? We've got to be flexible. You talk about changing 1,000 times. That's flexibility within some software to be able to change that much. Talk a little bit about the flexibility and scalability that UPS.
It's two different things for us. One is, I have a group of my team that their sole job is candidate experience. And they're going in and reviewing the surveys and looking at the processes by location, by building, by type, to make sure it's efficient. And we look at where people get stuck. What can we do better to make that not happen? So that's on a regular basis. The other thing that we're talking about is AI and how we can be more predictive. Every time we make hires, we're talking about the volume of hires, we get a pretty good data set on how many people we need to start at the top of the funnel to get out one hire. By each location, it varies. What I have to do in a rural area versus a metro area is very different. The job types are very different from how many people need to start the process for a driver to get a hire out. And what we're able to do now is be a lot more predictive than we ever have been before. Before, we would set goals for candidates just across the board. Now we're drilling it down to, I need this many candidates for a preload in Dubuque, Iowa, and I need this many candidates for a building in Chicago. And we're able to coordinate our advertising plans around that much more than we ever did before to save money in that arena, so that we're able to go in and not overspend on our advertising to correlate to what we know the throughput would be need to get to that many hires for that particular location. That's something we're going to continue to get better at, and those are some things that we wouldn't be able to get other than the data that we're getting out of Fountain for that.
Yeah. Jesus, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, so
even the scalability aspects?
For sure. So in my mind, that is really one of the main reasons why Fountain was the most attractive partner that we were looking for. Because in the past, not to talk bad about our previous partners in the space, but it was just, things just would take too long. So what Fountain brought to the table is the ability for us to be able to scale. I mean, we talked about, almost like run 2 different types of businesses, part of the year and then the end of the year, where the reality is that, we're really depending on the market. If you got companies that make shifts and all of a sudden, the new iPhone 16 just comes out, right? And delivery date is such and such date. That changes the dynamics on when we have to address the delivery of that particular market. So that flexibility and the scalability for not only for peak season, because peak season comes every year. It might fluctuate when it starts a week, 2 weeks earlier, but throughout the year, you have mini peaks that show up at any given time depending on what the market drives. And Matt talked a little bit about the analytics. To me, it's almost like we went from the era of reporting to the era of analytics, and there is a big difference, right? When you look at analytics and visibility, it gives you everything. If you don't really have a good data analytics tool that provides you information to make on-time decisions, and everything that we do is on-time decisions. I mean, as of this morning, right before coming to the conference, Matt and I were on a call making a change with the Philadelphia and I have that, they wanted a change in their process. So you got to be flexible, you got to be adaptable. They don't even know that yet, but it's coming. We'll talk immediately after. So the reality is that you have to really be flexible. The data gives you visibility instead of driving blind when you're really making decisions without data. And part of our role is to really staff all the operations around the country. So, they're knocking on our door on a regular basis, and we can, and in the past, you made decisions. Somebody tells you that you think that they know what they're talking about. Hey, I need to change ratios for hires here and do this and do that. Now I'm able to say, hold on, let me run this report, and I say, wait a minute, based on what you're telling me, this is what I don't see. And it's almost like you're catching them on their own logic, and that's super powerful because you can make on-time decisions that they're going to drive. I'm also responsible for the costs in human resources, so all the costs related to advertising, background checks, and other services that we provide. That's a big deal. I mean, a decision of blindly change ratios, for example, could be a multi-million-dollar decision that nobody thinks about, but then when you get the bill at the end of the month, you gotta adjust for. So without the data that we get from Fountain and the flexibility, my business will be completely different when it comes.
We're going to get to the point with Fountain in the fairly near future that with the data, the system's going to be predictive and tell us what it should do. That's the next step for us. Is that when we put in, I need 5 hires here. This is what you should need to do. All those downstream things that we're making decisions on today, the future is the system will be making them for us or with us versus us trying to do it all on our own. Because we have to manage over 1,300 locations. We hire into 6,400 different sorts. So it's not an easy task when you're trying to centralize that.
Okay. How did you navigate some of those challenges and address those challenges? Now we have analytics and all these things are rolling out, but beforehand.
It was guesswork.
Yeah. And so now
I was making my best guesses. And then you're using past year's experiences, and this is what would happen last year. This is the ratios. When you did the postmortem, you understood it because you had to wait to postmortem to get all of that in. And now what we're able to do is on the fly. I'm looking daily data daily now. I said that wrong. So I know how many candidates came in a particular sort. It's a troubled sort. I'm looking at it hourly, and we're looking at it to work with our advertising partner and said, well, why? For these 2-hour stretch, I got no candidates, and they're in the middle of the day. What are we doing? Did something turn off? Did this not work? Those kind of things. So we're being a lot more strategic in what we're seeing, and we're being reactive to it versus being a victim of it.
Yeah.
Before, when you don't know until after it happened, you just have to deal with the consequences. Yeah. Now you're able to look at it in real time and make adjustments so you don't miss that hiring plan. So you don't, you meet the need of the customer, who our customer is, in this case, the operational team that needs people to move packages.
So now you have this wonderful software. There's still challenges with everything. How do you maintain, because for me, I'm thinking, how do we keep this personal? What's the personal aspect of that and the challenges of using?
We've talked about that a few times, and we struggle with that.
Yeah.
And we want to not struggle with it, but I think that's going to be an ever-evolving thing, to what that means. But I don't think we can, I won't let us lose sight that this is a personal decision for somebody. It's an inside package handling job, it's a seasonal job, but to that person, it's a big deal. It's maybe how they're going to help feed their family or give them Christmas or whatever the case may be. It's a big deal, and we have to treat it like that. We can't just let it be I don't want someone to feel like they're a number. And as a company, we can't let that happen, because then they're going to treat us like we're a number too.
Yeah.
Maybe one middle finger number, but a number. But we have to, they're a person. They have their brothers, sisters, mothers, dads.
Yeah.
You have to treat them like a human.
Yeah. That's I'm thinking of fingers, and I got glitter fingers and all these different things. The future of tech-driven hiring. What innovators or trends do you use at UPS or anticipate when it comes to crucial future enhancements? When it comes to
we're looking at a lot of different places in AI. We're really comfortable on looking at, helping with job descriptions, interviewer guides, scheduling, light screening. We're still a little cautious of a company, trying to get it into selections, a little area that's murky, especially with some of the laws that are out there that we're a little, I'm not sure we're afraid of it, but we're certainly cautious about it. Especially, you have to realize, 125,000 people, if you set up this process that someone calls it discriminatory, you didn't do it just once. You did it a couple 100,000 times. So we have to be very careful when we put something in place that has AI behind it. Yeah. And we're looking and evaluating all those different things. We've put things in place with Fountain. We'll put more things in place, but we have to give the right scrutiny. We also have the right audit process in place to make sure that there isn't discrimination.
Yeah. Jesus, you got anything to add to that as far as the impact and even value?
Yeah. So I think from a talking regarding the future, right? So I think Matt talked a little bit earlier, the finding the balance of technology and human nature, right? Because I think that's going to continue to be a challenge that we need to continue to enhance and figure out what is the sweet spot. And the reality is that the adaptability and the agility to all our business. For example, things as simple as I am thinking how I'm going to get home to Atlanta tomorrow morning, considering that there's a hurricane coming on that direction. Think about just the impact of what is going on right now in Florida, and as the hurricane comes in, right? Think about the massive adjustment of changes that have to occur in order to make sure that you're adaptable to take care of something that you cannot control, right? Such a hurricane. I mean, there are people and operations and packages that want to be delivered, and floodings as far north as Asheville, North Carolina is a little bit of a crazy. So the adaptability and the flexibility, it has to be there in everything that we do. And that is kind of what it really is going to define us as we continue our partnership with Fountain, allow us to give us data and to make some of those decisions in the future.
Yeah. We got 5 minutes left, and I want to take a couple of questions, but before we conclude here, what's one key takeaway from both of you, if you will? Give us one key takeaway that if people are going to sneak out early before they sneak out before the Q&A, what do you hope that they hear today?
Automation with humanity. Put the automation in, make it as best you can, but don't leave the humans out. Don't forget about that part of the process. You have to keep the human element in somehow.
Yeah, and I say from a partnership perspective is really partnership and trust, right? The only way that a partnership works is if both, in our case, both companies are invested. So we work as one. So that's what we found with Fountain, and we invested in. It was risky because we were very averse to change, a company as large as ours. But ultimately, if you trust in your partners, you feel that you're listening, and then the reaction to the ask happen immediate, then that's true partnerships.
We don't change vendors very often.
No.
And it has to be a significant change for us to be willing to do that. So Fountain gave us that opportunity and gave us the need to change.
Awesome.
So it was a situation that if we didn't make the change, we were making an error.
Yeah.
So it was just that good of a process for us.
Yeah. The power change is that change equals growth. Without change, there can be no growth, and there was a lot of growth and improvement in your company. It's awesome. Do we have any questions? I'll take, oh my, look, I like this. There was a young lady all the way in the back, second row. Yes, ma'am? Yep, you.
DQF, DOT qualified. Oh. Uh-huh. Yes, we've designed it with them to have the steps, upload documents when they come back from the physicals, and they have a checkoff list for a DQF that we've created within their product. So that the onboarding specialist, when they come in for the road test, they get the paperwork to go to get their physical, to get their everything, and the candidate uploads all their elements of the DQF, and then the onboarding specialist just checks it off and creates the file, and it goes right into our imaging system, all automated.
Gentleman in the back, just speak loud if you can. Thank you.
Yep.
What percentage of applicants and candidates converted go through the process and receive the contract without an interview?
Well, out of all the people that yearly we hire about 300 grand on average in a year. I'm going to leave out the, say, 20,000 of those jobs that are part-time supervisors, admin, specialists. They're in a different track. The other part of our jobs that are entry-level, package handler, driver helper, SSD, which make up about 85% of our overall hires, are all coming in under that process. And about 20, depending on the job type, drivers are a little bit lower. You're in the middle to low teens. So we're converting 10 to 15% of the total candidates that come into a hire. For package handler, SSDs, and driver helpers, we're converting somewhere between 20 and 28%, depending on the part of the country, that enter the funnel to a hire.
Awesome. I'm going to take a couple more. Before I do, I want to remind for those who are going to step out before this next question, you can visit Fountain. I know lunch is next, but before you go to lunch, come to the Fountain of Life and hang out at the booth. They got some goodies. I'm going to give some stuff away in a second, but I'll take a question. I just want to make sure you know which booth to go to. Right here, gentleman in the front, and then we'll go to the second row, and then if we have time, we'll come to the third.
Sure. It's two different. Let me answer that two different ways, okay? We've improved our conversion rate about 30%. We've increased it by 30% since we went to Fountain. Now, we're not able to cut down our advertising by 30% because the hard-to-fill markets where you're spending most of your advertising at, those, you can't stop that completely. But we're still every day trying to figure out how to cut. We're probably in the single-digit percentage on cutting our advertising down, but it's not as drastic as the conversion rate because a lot of places I don't have to advertise at. I can just put our job up on upsjobs.com, and I get enough candidates to get the flow through in some areas. If I don't have to put anything up. I don't have the job I had in Atlanta. I get enough people through just by going on our site, and then it gets ferreted out through the internet through our search engine optimization, everything that we get candidates. But other places like in the mountain towns, in the vacation homes in Colorado, Martha's Vineyard, I got to be on everything. So you spend out in some locations, and you just got to keep spending because to reach all the candidates at the different levels that you need to hit.
Awesome. I want to be respectful of time. Tim, are we good? Can I take one more? Okay, one last question, young lady in the second row. And then anybody else, like I said, you can have a conversation with Fountain, the team, at the booth or afterwards as well. Last question here.
Because those are the three questions, but okay. It's kind of like back to school, Ronnie Dangerfield here. It's like I got to answer 61 point B. The first piece, we did a small pilot for about 30 days at 3 locations, and we flushed out a lot of errors or issues at that time. So we went to a high flow and medium flow and a high or a low flow location, and we got some interest or got some learnings there. The other piece, we tracked every request, and we have a sandbox that we do put something in before we put it live. And in every situation, we're looking at it. We don't want to break anything, but we also want to improve something. And in many cases, what we found in those 1,000 examples, we were inhibiting or making it harder for a candidate to get through, so it just made sense. Then after peak season, after the war was over, so to speak, then we were able to reassess and redesign and put things back together to make sure everything is whole, redo our process designs and everything that we have. So we didn't update our process design every time we made one to the 1,000. We waited till after peak season, then when we overhauled it again and just went through it again, did we do anything that we didn't intentionally mean to do when we were putting all these changes in place? Because during peak season, when you're trying to hire all those folks, you're trying to meet, it's whack-a-mole. This issue pops up and you try to resolve it, and you hope you didn't break anything, but sometimes you do, and you have to fix one fix may lead to 3 fixes. And you just have to deal with it and keep moving it, because at the end of the day, I just have to keep hiring. I can't let the machine stop, and you're trying to make it keep moving and keep moving and keep moving.
Awesome. Let's give it up for the UPS. What can Brown do? Thank you so much.